part of the complication with bringing in promotion relegation, and this is like some of the things that like the rabid foaming mouth like pro rel group that like kill anyone that's not pure blood. Like this is the things they don't realize. It's like you legally can't do it. Like you legally cannot just start promotion relegation with people that just spent $200 billion. It'd be like me like selling a condo building and being like, yeah, you can buy this condo building for $7 million. Right after you buy it, I'm like, but those 3 bedrooms are actually that guy's. It's like,
if your dog poops in the quad, we take your condo away, and now you got to go live in a project. You're like, wait, what happened?
No, we said like roof deck. We said, no, we're taking the roof. I mean, so, but like mixing in, and this is where I think there's enough progressive MLS owners now, especially some that have other franchises in promotion relegation countries, they get the incredible dramatic, yes, risk, but risk is exciting now, isn't it? It's like they get the benefit of, in a sports landscape that is diluted with a lot of playoff format, right? To introduce a very unique, sporting meritocracy that like they kind of get it. They just needed to make more financial sense in how they spin out of this single unit, single entity system into that.
Today on the Cooligans, we are joined by our dear friend, a hero to American soccer, to Premier League coverage, to Instagram Live haircuts.
That's right. He's the only client of my failed barbershop.
Okay, so it's an honor to him. This is going to be his testimonial, basically.
That's right. We got Martino on the show, baby.
So all this and more today on the
Cooligans! Yeah, baby!
Yes.
Come on.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's how we start this show, with a little bit of pizzazz, some excitement. Right. Okay.
What Latinos like to call a little Oreo Perico.
Okay.
Which is not going to get bleeped because they don't know what it means.
So everyone must adjust.
That's right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Again, my name is Christian Polanco.
I'm Alexis Guerreros.
All right, we are the Cooligans. We are your favorite stand-up comedians that host the funniest show about soccer.
Bro, we better be your favorite comedians that do a show about soccer. And of course, we're the funniest. Christian is 100% right. He always is, right? Because he's one of the Cooligans. But it's not just that, Christian. We also happen to be the gulliest.
Yeah, and that's one word. Gulliest is one word. So absolutely thrilled for today's show, because not only do we get to see each other, but we get to see another one of our dear friends. I think he's moved from just a guy who played soccer to an international hair sex symbol.
That's right, which I kind of ruined, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that. When you see him, you're going to be really, really stunned. And
what did Alexis do? I like how you call him just the guy who played soccer. I mean, you know him from his time at MLS, but you probably know him more as the guy who sounds like he's always right because he speaks in an American accent on NBC Sports Premier League coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you're driving, and you shouldn't be, it's coronavirus. Go home. You're killing nurses. Put your hands together for the one, the only, like it's 7 o'clock from my man, Kyle Martino, everybody.
Kyle, what's up, brother?
No, I can hear them. Kyle. You don't got to do it.
I mean, first off, I love all the qualifiers where your favorite comedians that host a show about soccer with a guy who the name of it today. And one of us wears a hat sometimes.
Yeah. No one could challenge us when we get that specific. You know what I mean?
That's out there.
We're giving ourselves the validation.
Your podcast is the only one that comes with instructions. I mean, was I doing a podcast sign on or putting IKEA furniture together? I just took an armoire, or I'm just getting on your show.
And we come with more directions than an IKEA furniture because they never tell you what to do with all the bolts.
Yeah. And look, and you won't understand the language. I promise.
Hell yeah. So Kyle, I think first things
like good morning Vietnam, but good morning Queens.
Yeah, exactly. Yo, what's good, Bronx? That's the name of our movie.
Kyle, how are you doing, man? It's so good to see you. For the first thing that obviously stands out when people see you is your new hairstyle.
Or the earring that suggests you're the bad boy boyfriend of the hot daughter on an 80s sitcom. So where did you get a dangling earring during coronavirus?
I got a lot of tricks. Unfortunately, I decided to, for my first trick during this tough time, get that man right there to help me do my own fade for the first time ever. If you didn't see the video, if you weren't watching, if you weren't one of the 10 people that witnessed that live, it was a total tragedy. And I tried to overcome that tragedy by dyeing my hair blonde. It turned out to be Save the Crew yellow. And then I shaved that and said, what else could I do to totally embarrass myself or have to take it out or replace it in a couple weeks? I looked to see if my earrings from high school, if the holes were still there. They are. And so I went Jordan documentary.
Dude.
Diego documentary. I'm watching too many documentaries. Lost Boys, Keith O'Sullivan, George Michael. It's all there. It's all there.
Yeah. Thank God you didn't see the Michael Jordan Haynes commercial where he had the Hitler mustache. It would be like, Kyle, get off the internet.
Get off the internet,
Kyle. Shut him down.
Get Kyle off the internet. Your Wi-Fi's done, Kyle.
My DIY project shouldn't be on myself anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? It's entertaining for all of us. So but go as long as it's
Not
safe. Feel free to continue.
Build a bookshelf, will you, buddy? I mean, Jesus.
So Kyle, how exactly? How are you doing? How are you? We've spoken to a lot of current athletes that are handling the quarantine in their own way, maintaining training. I know that you've been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram, whether you're giving tutorials on tips to stay fit or drills to do. How are you coping and handling this? This time?
Not well. If I'm being honest, I've run out of things to distract myself from how much this sucks.
Okay.
Listen, we know why we've been staying at home. We know that there's a really scary thing going on. We know that it's serious, and I think we should still be able to laugh. You guys wouldn't have a life left if we weren't allowed to sit and find some way. We don't have football, although the Bundesliga's back, to just get us back feeling some semblance of normalcy. That stuff kind of runs out eventually, right? I started trying to learn the piano. That didn't go great. I learned like the intro to one Adele song and then put it away.
Yeah.
I got back to just messing around on Instagram. I wasn't really using Instagram a lot until the lock-in, and I was doing this observations from isolation. That stopped very quickly. I have a very short attention span. It runs out very fast. But then the kind of cool thing happened where, in a way, I kind of remembered being a kid again when we didn't have phones and we didn't have all this stuff to kind of connect us and constantly have us check in who liked this, who looked at this. And like the soccer side of it, I found the little kid in me that would go around the house and figure out all these drills that I used to do. So it's been kind of fun, with that, like digging up the time capsule of ways you used to pass the time when, the electricity went out, or you were stuck in the house in a snowstorm, or you just were a young, awkward kid going through puberty and didn't want to go outside. All those things have been bringing out some of the old tricks. That's for sure. Yeah.
It also feels like you are, again, that young, awkward teen going through puberty because of everything you do in your hair, your earring.
I'm just going to go through puberty again.
Just me trying to help him cut his hair. He says that I was basically a spectator. I'm like, dude, do this with the, and he was doing whatever he wanted. I'm like, hold it even. He's like, brrr. He's just cutting off.
The problem was the delay because I didn't have a mirror for behind me. So I turned around and basically was going like this, and he was going, stop. But by the time I heard him, I was all the way up here.
Yeah, but you didn't listen to me before that either. So the delay only delayed you not listening to me.
Yeah, but that very much was like the trust fall of haircuts. You know?
I landed right on the ground.
My favorite thing is like, look, some people who follow Kyle also know who we are. There's a segment that don't, and those people watch that live, and they were like, "Yo, Kyle, your barber sucks."
People are like, this guy doesn't know anything about cutting hair.
I'm like, yeah, of course not. I kept having to say, guys, I'm a comedian. He asked a comedian to help him cut his hair without a mirror. Did you ever vacuum all the hair out from your ex-wife's studio?
Yeah, she kicked me out of there.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, we got more when we get back. Go ahead.
Way to start transition out of a marriage. Let's get divorced and live together.
That'll speed things up. We got more with Kyle. We're not going to talk about the haircut after this.
All right, we are back here with Kyle Martino of NBC Sports. Kyle, this is
by the way, Kyle's on a low battery right now.
we should mention that, Kyle.
You're working remotely, Kyle. So we have 15% battery left.
So we had to have full battery for this.
yeah, I forgot we had to send full instructions.
Not in the instructions.
Doesn't listen whenever it involves us.
Let me add to page 20 of the instructions on how to get on your show. Make sure that your laptop's plugged into the wall.
I mean, that seems obvious, but yes.
Okay, so this is essentially like a time bomb, sort of. We're trying to get through this before this falls apart. But Kyle, you did mention your divorce, and it's been interesting because you are a very open person, very public. You also would talk about mental health and a lot of these subjects. But I'm curious because this has been this format for a separation has been more popular.
Spit it out, man. Just say it. You can say it.
So, because sometimes people are very critical. So basically, you are divorced, but it doesn't feel like you are, right? It's publicly, and a lot of people, even some
it's
people,
it's like you're quitting from your job, but you're still going to the office.
Because. You just had a child, another child recently, right? And so it's like this, all this stuff is going on. So it just seems like a lot more dramatic than you might be letting on, right? And I'm curious because I know it's clearly a conscious choice. So how are you sort of feeling, and how did you come to that decision without getting, I don't want to be like getting too personal about like why'd you break up or anything like that. It's just really about like, it's really. How are you holding up? Like,
this is a segment we like to call Kyle. What'd you do?
I just screwed this up. So it's like anyone, when you look at it on paper, is expecting something really scandalous, right? When you have two kids, you've been together as long as we are, and you're getting ready to have a third. Everyone wants a juicy story. It's so funny, like Us Weekly and all these things that were coming out with stuff. Like the headlines were terrible because like it was like, couple that still loves each other but decides not to be married anymore, like aren't married but are having a kid. It's like everyone's like, so. But what's so funny about it is, like I met Eva at a time in my life that was really tough. I mean, I just had a career-ending injury. Didn't realize it then, but realize it now. Was going through serious depression and had during most of my career, and didn't really know how to deal with it. So. She was there to save my life, really, in a time that was incredibly tumultuous, a lot of transition, didn't know which way was up, and was kind of just without the game as a cathartic anchor to kind of keep me grounded every single day. I was just really all over the place, and it was leading to a really bad state of just feeling super down and not wanting to get out of bed, and no one really knew it because I could put on an act and act like everything was okay. So we met and really fell in love quickly in that, like, we needed each other. Her parents were splitting the month we met. So, we kind of took turns saving each other. And obviously there was chemistry and passion and attraction and all those things that come at the beginning of a relationship. And then, when we got into it and had kids and looked at a decade-long life together, the last 3 or 4 years, we really sucked at being married. And we were like trying really hard to make it work. Anyone that says like, man, this marriage thing is a knack, like this is great, is like getting divorced soon.
Yeah.
It's like, we just, especially being in the public eye, not only the family I married into, but also her choosing to be in the lifestyle space, people were really judgmental and couldn't imagine that we would make this decision from a place of love for each other as a positive transition for our kids, to do this, to say, listen, let's not model a marriage of proximity and pragmatism because we have kids. Let's show them what they should aspire to build in a successful marriage. And let's also show them happy mom and happy dad, because we're not happy together married. And, we gave each other a huge hug the day we decided to do it. We gave each other a hug in divorce court when it was official. Like, we love each other. We just suck at being married, and we shouldn't be married. And we will be in each other's lives forever as co-parents, and like have the best relationship we've had in a long time now, because we didn't tether success to making we knew didn't work for us.
Okay. Yeah, there's a beauty to that where
it's almost enlightening.
Sometimes people are like, man, I want to have their marriage. I want to be in love like that. But I'm like, man, I want to be divorced like Kyle and Ava.
When I grow up, I want to get divorced like Kyle, dude.
It's tough sometimes too. Like, listen, like there's heartache and there's like, man, there's doubt. There's all these things that creep in when anything ends, right? But like, we're just very we're just very open, honest people, and thank God we are with each other, and we're making it work.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. Look, it is I think it makes, when you first even announced it and you posted it on Instagram, even my honest reaction was like, all right, what's this about? What are these phonies doing?
This is part of the divorce agreement. You know what I mean?
It feels like, what is he doing to me to make me feel bad about this or whatever? But it is.
The best is when I went on this, one of my friends got me to go on the dating app, Raya, and like hard sold me on signing in. We were laughing, we're on the couch, and I even talked with Ev, and I was like, Eva, you want to help me like set up my dating account? She goes, a little too soon for that. Like, we're having, like, come on, relax. So I set it up, and of course, like someone leaks that, and there's this big headline, like right when we get divorced, that another one that's supposed to be salacious, estranged husband, gets on dating app. And it's like, what do you mean? You mean divorced husband created a dating app account? Yeah. And by the way, how did you get at that point? It's like, they're just so desperate for what we're doing and a lot of people, I guess not a lot, but some of those people that need validation or comfort or just to bitch for no better reason than they want someone else to feel bad because they feel bad. There are people that can't believe that because you're not doing what they do and you're not doing it the way they choose to do it, then it's got to be wrong.
Yeah, dude, you're gorgeous. People want to knock you down a peg, but now that they see your earring, you've done it for them. So we got more with Kyle when we get back after this.
All right, we are back with Kyle Martino, and this is great. So a little behind the scenes, we were talking about how his battery life may not make it throughout the end of the interview. It didn't make it, barely just made it to the end of that last segment. So 0%. Kyle,
we made 0%, which how can a computer still be on a 0% battery?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a miracle. This is the new Passover, right? The battery lasted for 7 days and 7 nights.
We've had no one from that in the first 7 years.
Yes, you're getting your Jewish holidays confused, Alexis.
Bad.
Hey, but he cuts hair really well, though.
Yeah, I'm bad at that. If this had anything to do with pizza, I'd be all right. Religion, not my thing.
I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad it worked out. So let's continue. Kyle, I did want to ask you about because the last time we spoke to you was after the U.S. Soccer presidential election, and this was essentially after we were in Chicago, I believe, for the United Soccer Coaches Convention.
On the trail, didn't I?
Yeah. But I think that was the last time we spoke to you on the show, and you were. I don't think we didn't have a chance to talk about at that time the Save the Crew movement, because this happened. I believe it happened after, but you were a huge part of that, and it was great to see former Columbus Crew players really do what the fans were doing as well, and try to support the club and keep the franchise there in their city. I got this from the Save the Crew group, and they were awesome when we were there. What was
Is that a museum? Because mine never made it.
Look at that.
Yeah. Weird, huh?
Oh, crazy, huh? But
they said they're mailing it, but they forget that it's at 0%. So it's a 0% chance you're going to get it. So you might actually still get it.
What was the experience like for you? In one, you were always very critical of how U.S. soccer is run and how even MLS is run, and kind of being that middle ground, being that former player, looking towards the future, and not hoping things like this don't happen again.
Yeah, so it was a tough situation for me, simply because the team that made my dream come true, the team that made me a professional soccer player, was going to not exist anymore. There'd be a day I'd explain to my kids, I played for this team. They'd be like, well, that doesn't exist. So they'd be like, well, I kind of used to, but then it's an awesome line, you're not going to get it. So emotionally and romantically, it was heartbreaking to know that was a possibility. And, during the election, I was, there were too many fires to put out. That wasn't even on my radar. Trying to understand the youth landscape and all the craziness that's going on there, that's continuing to go on there. And there's no part of me that enjoys the bad things that are going on right now and the failures. We all stepped forward, whoever did, to try to reverse things, but also because we believe in the game in this country and obviously our federation and want to turn around. But for the Crew, when it started to look really bad and it was months away from getting that kind of, all right, it's happening, it's done, I got on the phone with a couple of former players, with McBride and Dante Washington and Tom Prestis, and it started by just saying, what can we do? And we kind of kicked around some ideas, and I just said, listen, whether we can help save the Crew or not, we have to go back there. We have to show our face, because, by the way, we haven't saved anything. Save the Crew, created by fans and getting behind the scenes and seeing how hard they were working and what they did. They're the ones that saved the Crew. We just came to their side. We just stood there with them. And ultimately I said, listen, if this is going to happen, we need one last dance, one last amazing go in front of these fans. And I tried to, on the down low with just Dante and Prestis, start calling players. And I was amazed at how many players were, Edson Buttle and Mike Clark and McBride and all these guys that were, and Maisnoff was in town but couldn't play in the game, and Harks and all these guys that wanted to be there and just were all about saving the Crew and showing up. And the turnout was amazing, and playing in front of the Crew fans was incredible. But what was wild was it was supposed to be a kind of funeral. It was looking like we were coming into town, and it was going to be a really, really sad kind of last party together. We had to, MLS got wind of what I was doing, and so we had to do it in this really clandestine way. So we were tucked off on a historic site, away from the stadium, on our own little piece of land, and 2,000 Crew fans showed up in the rain. We played, we hung out with them. And I think it was a couple days before the talks had happened behind the scenes, and they brokered a deal to keep it there. And the new ownership group stepped forward. And so it ended up being the coolest thing ever, because we thought it was just going to be this bittersweet, awful scenario of saying goodbye to this club we loved, to these fans we loved. But it ended up being this massive celebration.
Yeah.
Wow. You said it was in a clandestine way. Was there pushback from the league about?
They were definitely not happy we were doing it because, it essentially it was such a bad scenario for Major League Soccer where it seemed like a win-win situation. It's like this guy wants out, right? He wants to go to Austin. You want a team in Austin. Send that guy to Austin. There's another ownership group that wants a team here. Like, show me the victim. Like, what are we talking? Why have we created this zero-sum game of like? And so, there's a lot of nuance behind the scenes, but they got wind right when some of the more high-profile players were like, "Yeah, I'm down." It started to get around, and I was not asked to shut it down, but I was told that they were not very happy with me because ultimately it was bringing more exposure to what Save the Crew had brought so much exposure to, which is this isn't right. This shouldn't happen.
Yeah. It is a because I think after it was sorted and we learned what was going to happen, it feels like the trajectory of what American soccer was going to look like was really effective, right? Because it did feel like, all right, well, I think it felt like the original plan was like maybe 28 teams and maybe not go too high, but then after that happened, now it feels like, all right, we're definitely going to 30. Who knows? We might merge with Liga MX and like all these other things are going to happen. And it feels like that was the turning point of like what is potentially something massive coming in the next couple of years.
They seem to have it all figured out, like I do in my being interviewed on podcasts. Like they're on 0% battery. They're just trying to get the other thing. Like, we don't sell players, we keep them. No, we sell players. Like, we're not going to expand past like 20. We're going to 75.
There's so many questions I have.
Like, I love MLS. Like MLS gave me my dream, and like, I still have friends that are coaching in MLS, working in MLS, and I just don't look at it as this like mutually exclusive, country club where beyond these gates, football doesn't exist. It's like, of course I want promotion relegation like most fans. And I go about it in a way where I don't do it with a pitchfork and a flamethrower and a torch. I try to broker us getting this, the best sporting format on the planet to this country. But like, as much as MLS gets wrong, like this is where the people that are pro-rel or whatever need to just wake up. Is like, it's pretty incredible what exists. And like, don't forget the one that tried before failed, right? Like, is some of their success due to inertia and the game just growing in this country? Yes. Are they getting some things wrong? Absolutely. I'm the first to speak up, and I've talked to Don and others personally about that. But these aren't villains twisting their mustache. It's like when you create that narrative, then they don't want to listen in a world of discourse where fans actually do know what they're talking about. Like, we should be able to give them credit for the things they've done well, and then be really upset with the things that we don't.
Yeah, I think there's a certain positive note that fans have forgotten where we came from, that we're so spoiled to where we are now that they're mad at what we have now, which is a sign that American soccer is progressing.
But that's also comes with people being fans of other leagues and being like, wait a minute, how come ours doesn't look and feel like that? And I think a lot of fans would rather get upset than say, here's what we have, here's where we came from, and what could we do? There is a way to move forward. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be by throwing stuff. Although, me, I'm a fan of throwing stuff. You know what I mean?
Throwing stuff is the only way.
Yeah, sometimes. I have another question following up with this, but I'm going to ask as soon as we get back.
I thought you were going to throw the break, and I was like, that's the best segue ever.
I just did, and you stepped on it.
Oh. Great segue.
We'll be back after this. Stop it.
Nice throw.
All right, we're back even more with Kyle Martino. I feel like we're two uncles that were being asked to take care of a very rambunctious teenager whenever Kyle's on. I'm like, Kyle, don't hit that button. Kyle, what are you doing? Put that knife down, Kyle.
Closing me inside for a long time is not a good idea.
No, I've also met you outside, and it's not different. All right. So here's my favorite thing: is that
my excuses for my behavior.
My favorite thing about Kyle is that you don't have enough of a filter to not answer some questions. You know what I'm saying? Like you're sharp. You get when you're like, I don't want to talk about that, so I'm not gonna. But like, I feel like I can ask you anything, and I'm not here to get you in trouble. But you do have this sort of thing where like you were a part of MLS, you're considered a bit of a legend. You know, you are working for the NBC Sports. You're like this sort of authority and like this voice that's in soccer. So when we talk to you about like what MLS is doing, you can be very honest, but at the same time, it's like you've spoken to Don Garber on the phone about these things. So like you're not saying things out of step. So my next question is sort of in that line. When they talk about merging with Liga MX and this sort of Super League or possibly U.S. Soccer being able to compete with CONMEBOL, and the sort of these big growing plans that seem to now all of a sudden be getting kicked into high gear with a World Cup coming in 2026, if that's even possible with everything that's happening right now. What are your thoughts on someone who is able to sort of see, like, have a very close view of how the European game is played, but also be from here and sort of have it both affect you? Do you think these are good ideas? Are you afraid of what might happen? Do you think we should pull back? Like, where's your head at?
I'll anecdotally tell you a conversation I was having with Claudio Reyna during the election, who, got to play with him. Dude, absolute legend, incredible on the field, wonderful guy, very smart.
I've never seen him blink. Intense.
Bring that up. Yeah, he's just conserving battery. He's always so he and I were talking about a lot of these issues, and he was really helpful for me during the campaign, and not in a support sense. He didn't have a vote, but just, the guy believes in the game in this country, has come from a background, his family from South America, his wife played, obviously, Gio, doing incredible. I mean, that is a soccer family. And we talked about like a North American power league. Like before a lot of this stuff was going on, we were like, that would be a really interesting and really exciting prospect. I mean, the idea of that as a property, as a sports property, I'm into that. Like that for me, especially when, like, we went down and I would, when I was with the Galaxy, we played against Tigres, we played against Atlas, we played against Club America, and like that rivalry is legit. It's real. It trickles down from Dos a Zero. It comes from that incredible rivalry we have with El Tri. And it's like, what a miss that we don't capitalize it on a different level. And part of the complication with bringing in promotion relegation, and this is like some of the things that like the rabid foaming mouth, like pro-rel group that like kill anyone that's not pure blood. Like, this is the things they don't realize. It's like, you legally can't do it. Like, you legally cannot just start promotion relegation with people that just spent $200 billion. It'd be like me like selling a condo building and being like, yeah, you can buy this condo building for $7 million. Right after you buy it, I'm like, but those 3 bedrooms are actually that guy's. It's like,
if your dog poops in the quad, we take your condo away, and now you got to go live in a project. You're like, wait, what happened?
No, we said like roof deck. We said, no, we're taking the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, but like mixing in, and this is where I think there's enough progressive MLS owners now, especially some that have other franchises in promotion relegation countries. They get the incredible, dramatic, yes, risk, but risk is exciting now, isn't it? It's like they get the benefit of, in a sports landscape that is diluted with a lot of playoff format, right? To introduce a very unique, sporting meritocracy that, like, they kind of get it. They just needed to make more financial sense in how they spin out of this single unit, single entity system into that. Liga MX and some of these other leagues, like, I mean, they do better ratings in our country than a lot of our games. I mean, we forget that the majority of our country doesn't speak the language we're speaking right now and has an affinity for this game before we introduce it to them, but has an affinity for a club that is not in this country. And it's like, if they could see their club come to town, if they could follow the league that also has, LAFC in it, right? Then they'll see Carlos Vela. They'll learn the stories. They'll learn other stars. It's like part of the reason that I watch Norwich is not because I'm like diehard. I got to see a Norwich game. It's like every now and then I'll see Campbell. I'll be like, man, this kid's really good when he's playing I'll check it out. But it's like, if I wasn't watching Manchester United, I wouldn't have learned that. So it's like, we try to use shoulder programming in a like sports lateral sense. Like someone that watches baseball, let's put it like right after that. It's like, no. Like link it with all these other soccer properties and find a format that can invite all of that in. So you have people that come from different backgrounds, celebrate different clubs, watch different leagues, getting eyeballs on what you're trying to show them, rather than saying, trust me, it's as good as La Liga. It's like, no, it's not. Don't say that to them. Like our fans are smart enough to flip it on, even if they just start watching, be like, no, it's not. No, that's better. What do you mean? That's like, I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of MLS. I'm just a fan of the game first. So like, I don't carry any loyalty to pretend that what's not good for soccer in total is what I'm down for because I played in a league. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and the and speaking of the election a little bit, obviously recently the person that you lost to, Carlos Cordero, resigned. What were your thoughts on him leaving? Obviously, we know it was obviously related to the U.S. Women's National Team and their trial and all the arguments that they put out. But as someone, I can imagine, because I saw a lot of people on the Athletes Council were like, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have voted for Cordero. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. But what was as a former candidate, what was your take on it?
I had a few different reactions. It's a bad "I told you so." It's not one you really want to happen.
You got the tweet in your drafts though. Stop playing.
I've got a scathing tweet. I'm never send out unless I have too much to drink. At first, and listen, Carlos Cordero is a really good guy. Like I talked with him a couple times on the campaign trail. I feel bad for him in a way because this problem is not on him, right? Like that level of misogyny and naivete and just repugnant behavior to even stand behind some of the things that not only they were arguing, although I'm sure they'll tell us in hindsight it was a successful argument with what's happened since then with the ruling. But, there are a lot of people that haven't stood up for a long time and say, I don't think we should be doing this. Forget legality. I think we should be a really progressive country that Title IX and these other things that we've been able to put in place over the years in sports to create more equity that's created the powerhouse that we have as the U.S. Women's National Team. We should be on the forefront, not like trying to figure out where's the absolute skinny line of legality where we can get away with treating our world-class World Cup winners how we treat them. And so it was a sad moment because him stepping down is a scape. It was the right thing to do, but a scapegoat thing. The problem still exists because there is no infrastructure that would check something like that would be able to listen to our athletes the way former players on the women's side have been trying to advocate for them. Current players have been trying to advocate for them. The men, current and former, trying to advocate for more unity, a more aligned federation. It's a shame because there are great people within the organization, and Carlos Cordero stepping down does not solve any problem. We still have a massive problem where we have the facade of a federation that isn't yet the mechanics of it and the architecture of it is not yet capable of creating a transparent, inclusive, and progressive federation that can lead top to bottom our entire sports landscape. It's just they're so far away from being that.
Yeah. This feels a little bit like the campaign again, but with the earring, I just take it a little bit more seriously. Oh man, this guy's cool.
I bet you they would have voted for me if I
Yeah, dude, there's a guy right now in a Camaro going like, Cal's rad.
Relegation. Listen, equal pay, all that. But I
gotta, this is what's
who's my running mate? Right here. With the earring.
We'll be right back with more Kyle Martino after this. All right, welcome back. We're here with Kyle Martino, and I'm having a great time so far. I got a headache from laughing so much. So, Kyle, I
get that checked out.
Yeah.
I got mine from eating ice cream too fast in the commercial break.
Kyle, let's talk about two projects that you are also involved with. One Street FC and one Over Under. Let's start with Street FC because I play in Street FC. I've had some great / embarrassing times there with some of the quality that is on the pitch. But it is a really, really cool thing, and I'll let you explain a little bit more.
Well, yeah, thanks for being a member. I'm also a member, and like the origin of it is that like I wanted something like that. So I had a career-ending injury and stopped playing at 28, and really like stopped playing altogether. And you know, I will in a second talk about the election and how that got me thinking about Street FC. But for me, it was like there's so many of my buddies that either used to play, were really good players, or some that played when they were little and want to start playing again. They just couldn't find the avenue to do so. And like in New York, for instance, there's a lot of great leagues, Bowery League and NYC Footy. I mean, you know all these guys.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's like there's all these amazing groups out there that run, you know, pretty competitive to really competitive, you know, recreational soccer, right? For me, I looked at the election, and the issue of consequence I was most concerned about was access to the game. And so I thought, like, how is it possible the easiest game on the planet to facilitate, the most blue-collar inclusive sport on the planet, is too expensive or difficult to facilitate in this country? Like, how did we mess that up? Like, how did we do that? Kind of how like De Beers told us like diamonds are forever. Meanwhile, like, you know, there's like 100 million of them locked in a vault in New York City, and they're just rocks. Like, we really marketed the game as this very like, got to do it this way, got to have grass, got to fly all over the place, got to pay this money, and like it's a blacktop sport. Yeah. And I grew up playing it in gyms with Hispanic adults, and you go to Bridgeport, pay $5 and go in the gym, and it was winter stays. Or Edson Buttle, one of my dear friends, his dad Winston had a bunch of Caribbean guys that would get together and play pickup. And it was like, that's how I played so many of my hours and learned so much when I was little. So I was like, well, hold on a second. All right, so we have a lot of kids in a certain socioeconomic class that tend to be the best players that ever play this game. If you look at the Ballon d'Or list and reverse engineer that, they all live in close proximity to concrete space. What do we have in New York City? 1,800 basketball courts, handball courts? Okay, well, why don't we try to get everyone to come start playing pickup games on those? Like, it was as simple as that at the beginning. And then I had a couple of my interns during the election go around. I mapped 50 basketball courts to see what the activity was like on them. And they were dead, dormant, all the time. I mean, some of them didn't have a rim on one side. Like, you know, I grew up playing basketball as well, and it like even made me sad that they're not going to be used for basketball. So I thought, well, listen, we got to activate these spaces and shift the paradigm away from this idea that you got to make sure you have your cleats or your turf shoes. You got to get, you know, you got to make sure that you have a referee there. Or you got to get into this league. It's, you know, it's so hard for people to spontaneously or casually jump into that. So I was like, I'm starting. This was the hyperbolic dream. I'm starting the biggest football club on the planet, and I'm going to take the atom of a pickup game and the list of 50 people that are invited to it and make that 10 million people invited to it and put it in multiple cities here and around the world. So I was like, who's got a lot of people together to go experience something out in cities? And someone was like, hey, have you ever met that guy, Dennis Crowley? And I was like, the guy who started a football club in Kingston and MPSL? They're like, yeah. They're like, yeah, he's also started Foursquare. I was like, I got to talk to that dude. Yeah. So one day over a beer, watching a game, I pitched Dennis on this idea of I'm going to solve a problem in this country by getting everyone to play a specific type of pickup on concrete, activating spaces around New York City that aren't being used. You have to build me a really sophisticated tech platform that can make us 100 games or 10 games, depending on the demand. And he goes, so kind of like, what do you, and I was like, I don't know, like a soul cycle of pickup soccer. And we both were like, ugh, that sounds terrible. But we're like, but that's kind of it. And so the last piece of that is we wanted to bring adults back to the game and create this kind of, I grew up on Anwood mixtapes and Rucker Park stuff, like create this real cultural vibe that, by the way, is already there, but just add to it and bring this new.
And I've been on the bad end of those skills.
Yeah. No, but honestly, man, like you're being self-deprecating, but like you are the perfect example of and. Listen, you're not nearly as bad as you think you are.
I've had some okay days. Yeah,
there are beginners that are literally kicking a ball for the first time with us, and like for me, being a part of a club shouldn't be how good you are at the game. There should be a level for everyone, because like, you know, when I see Street FC, I see members that just retired or played D1 school, and I see people that literally kicked a ball for the first time last week. And like the dream
has anyone ever taken a sandwich out of their pocket when they score and celebrate? Because I did that. In fact, we're going to finish the story because you got a lot more to talk about as soon as we get back after this. All right, baby, we're back. Even more with Kyle. Kyle, you were talking a little bit about Street FC, which is amazing, right? You got a bunch of people coming out to play soccer. You also do something else called Over Under, and they're separate only specifically so that you confuse everybody. Why don't you tell everyone what Over Under is and how you somehow convinced me to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan?
It's because Christian wasn't available. So Street FC and Over Under Initiative were out of the same, the origin of it out of the same belief that we can activate the game in the streets. And so after I proved I could get people that never had before to go play on concrete and enjoy it and have that repeat and scale, I wanted to show that we needed an infrastructure solution for the kids that hopefully we can fund a Street FC youth program that has hundreds of thousands of kids in it one day, that the adults are playing to pay for the kids to be in it for free. But I want kids to just show up on a court with a ball. And so when I played soccer, I would fly around the world, South America and Europe. And you guys know this, every single court has a soccer goal and a hoop. Although in those countries, I guess they let them put a basketball hoop over their soccer goal. Mm-hmm. So I just thought, here's a really low cost, high impact way to bring facilities to every street corner for these kids. And also don't tell them this is only soccer, because we will always be a multi-sport country. We have to let kids sample things. So the idea was I built these goals that you saw out in Grand Rapids when you thankfully came to host our first ever court launch. And so the idea is put goals that can, like my Murphy bed, my first New York City apartment that was so small I couldn't fit a bed in it. It's like, make the goals go away so the kids determine what the court will be on any given day. Like that, foosball table that turned into a ping pong table, that turned into a street hockey table. We have to give these kids on every street corner access to the greatest social empowerment vehicle on the planet, the game of soccer, and tell them to also play basketball and play street hockey and play these other things. So Over Under Initiative is a nonprofit that goes around the country to try and convert these courts to bring the sport and multiple sports for the kids that are being locked out.
It's great. I mean, just in general, even I grew up in Brooklyn, but even playing in Street FC and being able to have access to the game. I didn't grow up playing the game, but even the fact I can just turn on an app and I'm a couple train stops away from a dope game it feels pretty good. So yeah, so thank you for that investment of your time, because it's made me a happier soccer player in general.
Well, I don't want to be emotional, but like honestly, like that is why I started it. Like I started it because I wasn't playing anymore, and it's a cathartic experience that connects you with people and makes you feel good about yourself and makes you feel like you're a part of something special. So it makes me feel so good that, people like you are out there enjoying it with the rest of us.
And I downloaded it, but I haven't used it. We'll be back with more after this.
Okay, well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Kyle Martino for joining us today. We're happy that he found his charger. That's really the most important thing. Kyle, thank you again. Is there anything you want to let people know before we sign off?
That Alexis did find the charger to his beard trimmer, and he will get rid of that last piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate you so much.
So
it's always so good to see you, man.
thank you
Great
so
to
much,
see you,
Kyle.
man.
Yeah, and like I said, make sure playing Street FC, especially if you're in New York, check out Over Under. Kyle's doing a bunch of awesome things, and when the Premier League is back, you'll see him on NBC Sports. So make sure you follow at Fubo Sports on all social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Soccer Cooligans and the Soccer Cooligans YouTube channel. Feel free to do that. So with that said, for Kyle Martino, my name is Christian Polanco.
I'm Alexis Guerreros.
And together, what are we?
The Cooligans! Yo, thank you so much for watching that content right now. Right now, we're staying at home. Thank you so much for staying at home. In fact, if you subscribe, you can watch all the other content we have right now that we're doing from our living room here on Living Room FC version of the Cooligans.
What a great opportunity to subscribe and watch more videos of us, the Cooligans, on Fubo Sports.
That's right. Hit the subscribe button. You're not doing anything else right now. In fact, what you're doing is listening to us. So if you really love us, you'll do two small things. One, hit the subscribe button. And two, I don't know, maybe give us your credit card number and the last 4 digits of your social. Nothing crazy.
2 small requests.